Hi, I'm Laurel Bodinas here at the Southwest School of Art, and welcome to Saturday Morning Discovery. Today, we're going to be playing with modeling clay, and I'm going to be showing you how to make an animal or a bird that you can do all kinds of fun things with out of modeling clay. So today we're going to be using this modeling clay, which is an oil-based clay that's kind of like a plastic, and it stays soft. And sometimes if it's very cold, you have to work with it with your hands and just warm it up with your hands like this. And it does have bright colors, and it will possibly stain your fingers or the surface that you're working on, or it could also possibly stain your clothing. So be careful when you're working with it, and just be aware it's nice to work on a piece of paper. And you're going to work the clay, to get it warmed up before you start to work with it. It is sensitive to heat and cold. If it's cold, it's going to be hard to work, but the heat of your hands will warm it up. If it's hot, like you make a little guy and you take him in the car in the summer and you leave him in the car, don't do that because he's going to melt into a puddle. Okay, let me show you how to get started making your creature. So we've got this ball of clay, and it started out like a stick. And so this is how you do it. You just warm it up with your hands, and you just kind of squeeze it and work with it, and it'll get softer as the heat from your hands warms it up. Just squeezing it together and warming it up. You can roll it on the table on your paper like this. Just warming it up. You could set it in a warm place. You don't want to get it wet though. This kind of clay, you don't want to get it wet because that'll make it hard for it to stick together, and it doesn't absorb water. It's really a kind of plastic. So I'm going to warm this up, this ball. And this is a technique that you use when you're working with real clay, which is a kind of soil. It's mined. It comes out of the ground. The kind of clay that your coffee cup or your plates are made out of. That is mixable with water. Oh, see, I'm trying to stick my thumb in here and make a pinch pot, and it's still too hard. So I'm going to get it warmer. This one's been worked a little more than this one. It's a little softer. And you can kind of see that red clay is making my hands a little red, but that'll wash right off with soap and water when I'm done. So when I get this ball of clay, and that's one stick of clay right there, now I'm going to take this is my right hand, this is the one I usually use, so I'm going to put the ball in this hand, and I'm going to stick my thumb in. Oh, and that's pretty hard. I have to push pretty hard, but I can keep on warming the clay up. And then I pinch with my thumb on the inside and my fingers on the outside, and I keep kind of going around and around like this, and that makes a bigger hole inside. And then I'm going to stick my other thumb in and just keep on kind of squeezing like this, making it a little bigger. And now I'm going to roll it like this. And that's making the outside kind of flat. And now I'm going to kind of I'm pulling this way and this way because I'm trying to make this shape. I don't want a little cup. I want to make a kind of a hollow tube that's going to be the body of the bird. And as I do this, I'm kind of squeezing it with my hands, making it more narrow, and pulling it with my fingers and thumb in two different directions. And you see, we're starting to get a shape that's about the size of that bird. Keep on pulling, and I can push up with my fingers and thumbs. You can use tools if you have tools. This is a pokey stick. It's a very ubiquitous, that means common, tool that I use in a lot of different kinds of art. If you don't have a pokey stick, you can use a sharpened pencil. And also I like to have toothpicks sometimes. There are some toothpicks in his legs, and I'll show you that when we get to the legs, to help him stand up. So we're going to keep on working with the clay. And now I'm kind of starting to make this point. I guess we have a blue jay and we're going to have a cardinal here. Now you could make that the beak, but I'm going to put the beak on in a different color and make this a little crest on the bird. And then I'm going to kind of pull this like this and keep on going. There, that's about the right size and shape. I'm going to go back to this piece now. And I'm going to break it. Sometimes if you break it by twisting, it's easier. You can twist it and get smaller pieces. So I'm going to take this piece right here, and I'm going to kind of smush it with my hand down like that. Now, if you had a little wooden rolling pin that was just for playing with clay, you could use that to roll this out. You wouldn't want to use a rolling pin that you were then going to use for actually making pie that you wanted to eat. You would want to have a rolling pin that was just for when you were working with clay. So I'm just going to pull on this piece, kind of pound it a little. What part do you think I'm making now? I'm making the wings. And I'm making both of them at the same time. So I've made kind of a flat oval. And I can bang it on the table and change the shape with my fingers. And now, this is a clay tool, or you can even use just a table knife. Something a little sharper will give you a cleaner line. So I'm just going to cut this in half. Now I've got two wings. The great thing about modeling clay, when you put one piece on another piece, it pretty much just sticks together. You do want to blend the parts with your fingers, or you can use a tool. You could use the blunt end of the pointy stick to blend your pieces together. And then come in with your finger and thumb and smooth that out. And it'll smooth together real nice. Now, when we get this bird done, I'm going to show you different positions you could put the wings in. I'm just putting them both like this. So I've got that one. I'm going to start bending that up. That's one. Let's bend him up. Let's see. Now look, see how it got kind of smushed in here? I don't really want it like that. So I'm going to put my finger back inside. I'm going to press back from the inside to smooth it back out. I'm going to take the other wing and stick it on the other side. Okay, so I've got both my wings attached, and it kind of looks like a dancing penguin from this side, but this is going to end up being the front of our bird. So now I'm going to look at the wings and kind of make that curve start to show me where the feathers are on the outside. I can kind of come in here with my finger and thumb and make those little kind of scalloped shapes that look like feathers. And you can take your pokey stick or your tool and kind of make a little line in there, shows you where the feathers are. You do a lot of detail work with this plasticine. It'll take a lot of detail. So we're going to do that from both sides. Starts to look like a flying dove, kind of. I like to make wings. I like to make birds. I always have loved to paint and sculpt birds my whole life. I started out, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years old, drawing dinosaurs and making newspapers out of construction paper, and I was always making art. So if you have something you really like to do, you don't have to stop doing it. There, I've got my little wing shapes. All right, Now this is gonna be a cardinal. I don't know if you've ever looked at a cardinal. We have a lot of cardinals here in San Antonio. They have orange beaks. This is sort of like a blue jay. He does not have green on him. But when I made this one, I didn't have any black and white plasticine. Now I do. So I'm gonna take a little piece of this orange and I'm gonna make a little round ball by putting it right here in the middle of my hands and rolling it like this. And then I can also roll it on the paper like this. And then I'm just gonna kind of bang it on the table, make it pointy. I can also do that with my fingers, kind of pinch. Your fingers, when you pinch it like that, make a little triangle point. And that's perfect for making beaks. You can bang it down there. Some birds have a very long, skinny beak. If you've seen them, maybe down on the river, like herons and birds that fish, they have long, skinny beak. A cardinal has a short, fat beak because it's a seed eater and it wants to be able to crack seeds. So you can learn a lot about what an animal does by looking at what does it look like. You can certainly learn a lot about what birds eat by seeing what shape their beak is. So now I've got a short, fat, triangular beak, and I'm just going to stick it on the face like that. Take that. Now, there he is. He's got a beak. And next, I'm going to take the rest of this red clay here. Actually, I'm going to take a piece about that big and another piece about that big. I want them to be about the same size. And I'm going to roll 2 round balls like that. Those are going to sit there like that. I'm going to see this part here. Now I'm going to start squeezing this part here. I can squeeze it together like that. I want to start to build the tail. And I don't know if you can see this. This bird is standing on 3 points. It's standing on the tail and on the 2 feet, like that. He's pretty steady like that. I also put 2 toothpicks up inside the legs to help him be strong enough, because sometimes he might just fall over like that. So we don't want him to fall over, because then you have to fix his beak. Okay, so now we're just kind of squeezing the body together. Remember, it was all round. It was all opened up like this when we started. So I'm kind of squeezing that together. You can push in from the outside. You could fill this cavity with paper towel or something if you wanted to. It's not necessary, but if you're doing a lot of pushing, like you were making something where you were putting a lot of spots on the outside, or you were putting a lot of pressure on the outside of it, it might be good to have this cavity stuffed with something, this space. Just a paper towel or toilet paper, because then it's easier to push on the outside of it without collapsing it. So this is going to be the tail, and I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to make the tail out of that. These are going to be the start of the legs, so we're going to put them on after I get the tail on. You warm up this last piece of red. And you see, to make the bird this size, we're using all of 2 pieces. If you wanted to use 2 different colored pieces, maybe you'd make the body out of one color and the wings and the tail out of another color. There's a lot of birds that look like that. I'm just kind of making a sort of a rectangular wedge shape, kind of like that. And I'm gonna put it on underneath this little bit and press it together. So now I'm gonna press from above and below. If the clay that you have is hard and cold when you start, just have a little patience, just play with it. The great thing about clay is you can make something, and if you don't like what you made, you can squoosh it and make something else. So now I've got my tail on my bird. You can't stand up like that though. So I'm gonna take these, roll it just a little, and I'm gonna stick it on like that. And then I'm gonna take the other one and do the same thing on the other side. And I'm just using my fingers to smooth the different pieces of clay together so it all becomes one thing. Now he still can't stand up. He could sort of stand up like that. And I'm gonna give him some feet too. I'm gonna give him some orange feet. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna give him some black feet because I think he'll look good with black feet. That's a piece. How big is that? About as big as a grape, maybe? Now, I'm using the black clay, and I have to think about where am I gonna get black clay on the red? Because I don't want to do that. So I want to be careful with this black clay. In fact, I might want to do this last. This might want to be the last thing that I put on my bird. And since he can stand up like this, I think I'm going to just make two. Oh, see, they fall over. He fell over. Okay, so, but all I have to do to fix his beak is squeeze it back into a little pointy shape, like that. So if I separate this, if I make it go like this a little bit more, and I make that stance wider, stance means how you stand up or how you're positioned, right? Stand, stance. So if I make his stance wider, then he can stand up, just like this. But we're gonna go ahead and give him black feet in a minute because I'm gonna show you how to do that. Now, this bird has an eyeball. I don't know if you can see it. It has 3 colors in the eyeball. So, to make the eyeball, the eye hole, I'm gonna take, well, you can take the end of a pencil. You can take your pokey stick. I'm gonna take the dull end of my pokey stick, and I'm gonna poke a hole in the side of the head and kind of round it around like that. Make a hole. And then I'm gonna put one on the other side. Now, you could make a monster that had 18 eyes. You could make a spider that had a lot of eyes. But our bird is just gonna have 2 eyes for now. So I've made the holes, right? What color shall we make his eyes? How about green? So for the eyeballs, I'm gonna make 2 little teeny weeny tiny balls like little green peas. So like a little, like it even needs to be smaller than that. Pinch a little bit off. And I'll drop it right in the hole, like that. And then I can take my pokey stick and poke right down in the middle of it like that. And then I can take another color and make an even itsier, bitsier, teeny weeny tiny little ball and drop it right in the middle of that hole. And then you can take your little pointy stick and put another hole right in the center. And you can give him little eyelashes with your pointy stick if you want to. So let's do the other side. Now, so let's look at our beak. Okay, now to put details on the beak, you can use the pokey stick. He has a nostril. All birds have a nostril hole here. And then if you want to make, you can make the beak open. Look, you can take a pair of scissors and just cut like that. And then stick it back together. This started out to be a cardinal. Now with the green and the yellow, it looks more like a parrot to me. But that's okay. Now I've got some toothpicks. And if you're making something and it needs to stand up, right? You might want to put a little toothpick inside the legs, but But you want to remember that those toothpicks are there because they're sharp and pointy. So I've got the toothpicks in there for the legs. Let's see how he stands up. Standing up pretty good on those legs. You can spread this tail out a little bit too. If it's having more trouble standing up, you can make this wedge shape here a little wider. There he is, old peg leg. We're going to give him some feet. So I'm going to take this black and roll it, make it soft, and then I'm going to kind of squeeze it with my fingers. Remember I talked about when we made the beak, when you push your fingers together like this, it makes a little kind of triangular or square shape. So I'm doing that. I'm going to kind of making a little gumdrop shape. And then I'm going to pinch it with my fingers like that. 1, 2, 3 little toes. Most birds have 4. One coming off the back. Did you see how I did that? I just took another little tiny piece of clay and stuck it on the back like that. And there I have a foot. 1 foot. Let's make 1 more foot. So there we have 2 feet. Now I'm just going to kind of stick these feet onto the legs, onto that toothpick. All right. Now I've noticed that his chest got kind of skinny. He's still hollow inside. Do you see that? So that means I can take a tool, like this pencil, and stick it up inside and kind of press from inside. If it's gotten too, not round enough in the front anymore because I've been working it, I can open that up with a tool, and then I can kind of get my finger back in there. He's like a finger puppet. There's your basic bird. If you want to add some detail work to this, let's see. Cardinals often have a little black mask on their faces. The boys, the males, are bright red, and the females are brown with a little bit of red and orange on them. And the males have a black mask on their faces. So do blue jays, actually. So I can take a little piece of this black and roll out. This is called a coil. When we first made the body of this bird, that was a pinch pot, and that's a very old way that people have worked with clay. People have been working with clay as long as people have been people, which is hundreds of thousands of years. So the great thing about clay is, as a human being, your fingers know how to play with clay. You just know how. So just start to play with the clay. You can make anything out of it, but your human fingers are very clever and they understand clay, even this plastic clay. So now I'm going to take this little coil and kind of put it over his eye and wrap it around like that. And now I'm going to take the other half of this coil and do the same thing on this side. Maybe I want to look from the front so that I get these eyebrows in the same place. And you can wrap them around and actually have them come around the back like that and then kind of squish it in like this. We can flatten that crest, make it look like feathers coming up. Now what if I wanted his wings to be in a different shape or a different, maybe he's not like this, maybe he's got folded wings. So I could actually come in here and I could cut these wings off. Look at that. And then kind of change their shape a little bit and stick them back on. So you don't have to make him with his wings up in the air. You can make him any way you want to. Now he looks like he's directing traffic. Okay, so I'm just going to put a few details on my bird. I can keep on working on this as long as I want to. So I got a little bit of yellow, I made a little teeny weeny tiny little triangle. I'm going to stick it on the end of his feet and give him some toes. So we just got a little bit of yellow, and it's just the tiniest piece that you can even pinch off. Once again, roll it in your little fingers, pinch it and make that shape. And then you can stick it right there on the end of his toe. Give him some claws. Now, something, when you look at birds, if you look at pictures of birds, photographs, or if you go out and walk along the San Antonio River, like I said, the different kinds of beaks on the bird show you what he eats. When you're out and you see birds, look at their beaks, look at their faces, see if you can think about, what does that bird eat? How does he belong in his environment? We're very lucky here in San Antonio because there's a lot of green space and a lot of parks, and we have our river, and we have a lot of urban wildlife. You can see a lot of wonderful nature just right here at home. This morning I walked my dog and I saw parrots. We have wild parrots in San Antonio. A colony of wild parrots. Okay, I need one more little toe in there on the inside. Now maybe I want to put some extra designs on the wings. I can use my tool to show me where the feathers are. And you, if you wanted to and you had lots of time, you could go around and you could tool him all over. You could make little feather marks all over his body, even like this. And all the details that you put on your bird start to make him look more real and give him a little bit of a personality. Now, this black that I laid in on top, I can smooth my finger over it and make that black kind of come up and cover up some of this red, like he has a black crown. See there? I haven't done it yet on this side. And if I smooth that with my thumb, it's nice and warm, so it's easy. You're just kind of smearing that color over the top of the red. Now remember, once you do this, you're not going to be able to get the black off the red. That's just on there for good. Let me show you one more thing that you can do for detailing. I'll take a green. I'm going to take a little piece of green. I'm going to make a little itty bitty teeny weeny tiny coil. Sometimes we call this making snakes or making worms. And then I can take that and look, I can lay that down like on the tail and make some colored lines on the tail and press those in and wrap them around. So you can have a lot of fun building your bird or your animal. If you wanted to make an animal with 4 legs, right? You could make that pinch pot shape, and then instead of making it go upright, make it go sideways, right? And put the legs underneath it. All right. They're ready to play. Okay, so we're really pretty much done with our birds. You could keep on working if you wanted to, but when you're done, you want to make sure that you clean up all your little pieces. If you have itty bitty little pieces like this, you can take them and you could put them all together, and then you'd have like multicolors. Like we could make a little multicolored egg out of that last little bit there. Or you can put the parts together. Put the green back with the green, right? But go ahead and clean up your area. Make sure that you haven't left little pieces of clay floating around. Make sure that you've cleaned up your toothpicks and all the different parts. You can put them in a little plastic container like this. This clay will never dry out. So it can get cold, it can get hot, but it's always going to be usable like that. So you can just put it away. Put your tools away. You can keep your tools that you're using with your clay together with your clay. And one more thing, if you take a little piece of cardboard or paper, make a little platform, because remember I said that sometimes this clay can stain furniture. So put it on a little piece of paper. And then you're ready to go do the next thing. Thanks for coming. See you next time.